All right, it is 5:30 a.m. here on the East Coast. I am dealing with a very shaky camera, so I apologize in advance for the camera, but I do not apologize for welcoming you here to another edition of Mike Goes Live. Now it's time to hit the theme song. I didn't do one. I keep saying I'm gonna do a theme for my live streams because everything has to have a theme song on this channel, but I got lazy again. But I just remixed the news theme, so that was a lot of work. I don't feel like doing another theme after that. So yes, welcome to Mike Goes Live. I'm gonna do a theme right quick. Oh wait, that's X-Men. Never mind. No theme. No theme. So the cam might be a little bit shaky depending on how much I touch the desk throughout the stream. So yes, if you watched my room tour, I recently upgraded to the IKEA Rodoff because I really wanted a standing desk, and the standing desk is awesome. Like, for personally, the shakiness doesn't bother me. I did read that it was kind of shaky, but stability seems to be an issue amongst all the cheap desks. So, and by cheap I mean like under $500. Well, I wouldn't say 500, like 600. Under $600 US, it seems like every desk is bad in some way. This one, it is kind of shaky, but to be fair, I do have a lot of stuff on this desk, like a laptop and a keyboard, and I don't mean like a typing keyboard. I have that, but like my musical keyboard and two 32-inch monitors that are on a single arm mount. So yeah, it's a lot of weight, and plus I'm not using the desktop that it came with. I'm using a bigger desktop that's wood, so it's heavier than the original desktop that this desk was intended to be used with. So it might be even wobblier than it was intended to be. So like if I just touch it, see that wobble? That just, like, it doesn't bother me otherwise, but I noticed when I was setting up my camera, because my camera mount is mounted to my desk, I was like, oh, it is pretty wobbly. But yeah, otherwise it doesn't bother me though. Still a very cool desk. I ended up just paying $300 for the base part, and then I put some holes in my existing desktop and I screwed it on there. So if you missed that video, it's a pretty cool desk. I like it, but be aware of the wobble. If you get the IKEA Rodoff, I think that Rodoff is R-O-do. Do should be a letter in American English. We should have a do letter, Rodulf, Rodulf, Rodoff. Okay, that's what it's called. But what I like to do on the Mike Goes Live is where we kind of chill and we talk. And I want to do a live stream every month, and actually I've been pretty consistent with it. Plus, it gives me a break from doing my more produced content, and I just get to talk about stuff that doesn't really fit into a video. And that's kind of the whole purpose of these live streams. So I think I titled it USB-C Everywhere. It's MGL for Mike Goes Live, USB-C Everywhere. So I do want to touch on the USB-C thing, or potentially the USB-C thing, depending on what the government wants to do. But we're going to get to that eventually. What I like to do first is just kind of talk about the things going on in my life. And the first thing I want to talk about is one of the reasons I decided to do a live stream this week, and that was because of my Doge, my dog. So I had to get up early. Like, I work at night. I don't go to work till 5 p.m. So pretty much, since I work from home, I don't get up till like 4 p.m. So it's easier for me to go to like appointments and stuff in the morning, because for one, I'm the one that drives. My husband can't drive for medical reasons, and two, he works in the morning. Like, we work opposite shifts. So with something like a dog appointment or something like that, where both of us don't need to go, and plus, since I drive, I'm the one who has to do it. So I had to wake up early and take one of the dogs to get the heartworm shot, because we just do the shot because they're beagles. They ain't gonna do no pills or nothing. Like, you know how hard it is to get them to do anything? They don't want to do that. So we just do the shot, like the 6-month shot. And the other dog has to stay home, and then he has a fit. And it's like a whole thing. So yeah, I had to get up early to do that. and that threw off my whole sleeping schedule. So I was like, you know what? This week, it's not going to be a good week to do a video because my sleeping schedule is messed up. Also, our vet is still doing curbside pickup for the dog, which is really convenient. At first, I was like, oh, this is weird. But you know what? For some reason, they're always in the vet for a long time, so I got to do the little checkups and stuff. It was like 45 minutes to an hour. I'd rather just sit in the car and just do whatever in the car. That's just me personally. So I, let them come out there. They come in. I pull up. They do a little drive by and come and get the dog. Is that the right term, or drive by? I think that's the right term. If it's not, we're taking it back. We're going to call when you do curbside pickup at the vet or drive by. So I come in there with the dog and do my little drive by, and then they come and get the dog and take him in there, and then pay over the phone. And they bring him back out. It's really nice. I just hope they keep it, to be honest, because I just don't feel like ever going back into the vet again. And they're a really good vet, so I trust them. I know some people will be like, no, I want to be there with my dog, but our vet's pretty good. So this week with the vet and all the chaos and stuff, I was like, you know what? Let's do a live stream. We can talk about stuff like this PS Plus. So last week's video, I went ahead. You know what? I was tempted. I was going to upgrade either way because I wanted to do a video about it to see what these new tiers are going to be offering. But when they had the prorated thing, I was like, you know what? I think it was like $41 to upgrade the remainder of my subscription, because I just buy the year usually around like Black Friday-ish or whenever they have a sale when it's like $40. I never really pay full price for PlayStation Plus. I usually get it for around $40. So I still had, until March left on that subscription. And they're like, $41 for the rest of your subscription to upgrade. And I was like, that's not bad. As long as there's, like, if there's even one game I want to play up there that's a new-ish game, considering that PS5 games are $70, that kind of pays for itself. And I did find 2 games, like Ghost of Tsushima. I know I hate pronouncing that. It's a little bit difficult, but Ghost of Tsushima and what was the other game? Oh, Demon's Souls. So those 2 games to me made it worth it, at least to pay the money to upgrade. Now, if we were talking about paying the $120 up front for the year, then that I'm not so sure about. It's really going to depend. They have until March for me personally, and then everyone's going to be different, as far as what value you see in that service. But for me personally, they have until March to show me what kind of games and how frequent they're going to get games on there for me to decide if I want to keep it or not. Like, Game Pass is more expensive, but they do get a lot of games up there. And it's not even the fact that they get major games. Like, they got the new Ninja Turtles game, like the Shredder's Revenge, and I wasn't even expecting it to be on Game Pass, and it was on Game Pass day one, and I was like, wow, I was going to actually buy this game, but it's on Game Pass now. And me and Jeff played through it all last weekend. So, I mean, it's like 2.5 hours if you play the campaign once, but it's definitely a game I want to replay because, you level up each character and you unlock different attacks and stuff. But it's not even like the fact that they have Bethesda and, the first party games, but they get a lot of indie games that I like to play. There's just a lot of new games constantly coming into Game Pass. And of course you get the Xbox games day one. So like Gears and Forza and all that stuff, I've always checked out as soon as they dropped, just because I already had the subscription. So since Sony isn't offering their first party games on day one, hopefully they can kind of balance that by maybe attracting some of these indie games on day one. Like, I know Stray is going to be up there on day one, but hopefully they have more because they got until March. And if it ain't popping as far as the games, then I'm not renewing it. That's just me personally. But yeah, I downloaded those games. I downloaded Demon's Souls and Ghost of Tsushima last week, and then I literally haven't even played either of them. It's just been a super busy week. But I can't even say that. I can't really lie and say that because I did just say I played through Ninja Turtles, so it hasn't been that busy. But Saturday was like the only day I had free time, and I wanted to play something with Jeff, so we just played through Ninja Turtles together. So I just haven't had time to play anything single player, so I haven't even really touched the GPD-1 that much this week, aside from playing some Solitarica on it. Speaking of the GPD-1 3, it is still awesome, despite some questionable tactics from the company. The actual system is awesome. I am getting close to in general, getting close to Q3. So, being that I reserved my Steam Deck on the first day, I'm hoping that I get it towards the beginning of Q3, maybe next month. But also, I'm not getting my hopes up. I just feel like it's just something that's just never, is just never going to come. It's crazy. Like when I look at the reserve date and it's like July 16th, I think that's what the date was. And I'm like, that was almost a year ago at this point. I've been waiting for this thing for a whole year. So I'm really ready to try the Steam Deck. Even though I have the win, there are certain games that don't run up there because of Intel graphics issues. So I'm curious to see what my Steam Deck experience is going to be, because that's going to be more so limited by what games are compatible with Linux. And Valve has been doing a lot of work to make these games compatible. So I'm super excited. The main thing I want to see is if WWE 2K22 runs up there, because it runs on the GPD one, but it has this weird graphical glitch where people's body parts disappear, and then like certain textures, like anything that's dangly, it just stretches out for some reason, like it attaches to the ring. So it's really weird and stupid. And I don't know if that's a 2K thing that needs to be fixed, or if it's that Intel thing and they need to fix it on the graphics side. But it's really annoying. And I submitted a support ticket to 2K about it. And then like I literally attached the photos and everything of it. And then they just replied to the ticket and was like, yeah, we need photos and a description of the issue. Look at all the stuff I already gave them when I submitted the ticket. And I'm pretty sure it's just like a generic response anyway. But it was really annoying, and I just never replied to it, so they closed the ticket. And I should have replied to it, because it seems like it's really only affecting the GPD one, because like I've seen other machines with Intel integrated graphics and it runs fine. So I should probably resubmit the ticket and see what happens. They might just say it's an Intel thing, or they might just say it's your GPU is below minimum spec, so it's not supported anyway. As someone who's worked in support for the last 10 years, usually whenever they find something, depending on the person, they find something like, oh, well, you're under the minimum spec. That's what they might do, and that's fine. But I really do need to report it. But yeah, I'm curious to kind of compare the Steam Deck to the GPD one, especially because I got the $400 model, and that's an insane value if it can compete with the one. So I'm excited. Like I said, hopefully I'll be like in one of the first waves for for Q3. If not, I'm fine with waiting. I really like the win. I like how small it is. I don't think I'll like the form factor of the Steam Deck that much, but we'll have to see. Like I said, when I actually get my hands on it. My bare claws. All right, I think that's all the pre-news I wanted to talk about before I hop into the drama. I'm still not talking about the USB-C thing. We're still a little bit off on that. We're going to get to that eventually. But one of the things I want to talk about is the PlayStation Vita. So, as I was looking for stories to talk about for this live stream and for my news video on Sunday, I found this story, which is like, it's not really a story. It was just the best Vita games of all time on GameSpot. I'll show you the article. But yeah, I was kind of going through these games. This game I never played, to be fair. But number 2 was Gravity Rush. So just looking at that, like I definitely beat Gravity Rush on the Vita, and it was okay at best. And then Hotline Miami, that was like, an indie game that was on other stuff. The Luminous game was really good. I'll give them that, but they keep re-releasing Luminous on everything, so I already have it on Switch and I have it on PC. It's not Electronic Symphony though. It's like the original Luminous, basically the remaster. Persona 4 Golden was like one of the things that I loved in the Vita. Severed, I never played. Spelunky is another indie game. Tearaway was really good too. I like the way that they used the back touch, because the Vita had like a back touch area. And the game used, like, you could poke holes through the environment, because the whole thing was supposed to be like construction paper. Like, you could poke holes and your finger would come through. It was really cool. TXK, Zero Escape. Surprised I didn't put Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 up there. That was another major game for me that I loved playing on the Vita, because that was like the first time it was really portable. But Reason I was going through this is because I hate the Vita. And I just want to say that. It's been something that I've been holding in because I know that there are a lot of people who love the Vita, but I actually hated it. And it's not because of the hardware. The hardware was really good. And I just feel like some people are just too forgiving about the Vita, like how bad it actually was. But as someone who was an adult when the Vita came out and spent their money on it and bought the overpriced memory card for the promise of some exciting games. I mean, I know they had an OLED screen. Like I said, the hardware was really good. The software was garbage. I hated the interface. It had these weird like circle things. I understand they had to make it more touch oriented versus the PSP where they were coming from, because this has a touch screen, so you got to be able to navigate with touch as well as with controls. But I just think the interface was really bad. And the thing that got on my nerves about it was just Sony dropping first party support from it so soon. Like, I just remember, I spent all this money on this thing, and then we had some good games come out, but I feel like after Gravity Rush, then they were just like, oh, we're not making anything else for it. And of course there was indie support for it still, but I didn't buy that thing to play a bunch of indie games on it. So yeah, I think for me, a lot of people might look at it fondly because there's certain people who are going to get something and they're going to make it work. They're going to make the best out of a bad situation, kind of. And I'm glad that people who had the Vita, I'm glad they didn't feel disappointed in it, because I don't want them to feel the way that I did about the Vita. But for me, someone who loved the PSP, like, what was it? I think it was against the DS, the original PSP. And I definitely liked it more than the DS. Like, for me, aside from Pokemon was a bomb. Whatever Pokemon game I was playing. But other than that, I played everything PSP. And I was really excited to get the Vita. And I was really let down by it, especially when they stopped making first-party games, because they basically, like, the PS4 came out and they're like, you know what? The Vita's not making enough money. We're going to focus on making PS4 games. And that's pretty much it. So they kind of left that thing to die. And that's always one of those things where it's going to be hard for me. Like, every time Sony does something or tries something new, like with the PlayStation VR, I was like, I don't know. After what they did with the Vita, I don't know if they're going to support it. And I'm glad that they did support it very well, and they're doing the PSVR 2. But at the same time, I'm always like, well, if they're not successful, then they might get the Vita treatment. And that's why I hate the Vita. Like, yeah, I understand people like playing indie games portable, and there was one of the few systems where you could, at least until the Switch came out, and now we have stuff like the Steam Deck at $400, and I feel like now you can definitely find something if you want to feel that itch of even running emulators, because you could technically hack the Vita and run emulators, or something people love doing too. But I feel like the Steam Deck now would probably be a better value than getting a used Vita. Or, a lot of those indie games are on Switch now as well. So I just feel like nowadays, because I always considered like, I could buy another Vita just to go back to it. But even then, I'm like, there's nothing I want to play up there. I don't have a lot of great nostalgia for that system. Like, Gravity Rush and Cherry were okay, but for one, they got ported to PS4, and two, they're not good enough for me to want to go back and relive those. Whereas, like, the PSP, after I sold it, I went back and bought another one, because there were things like Crisis Core, which, if you watch Sunday's news video, is being re-released on like everything, and I'm super excited about. But that was one of those games I definitely wanted to go back and play. But there's nothing on the Vita that I want to go back and play. And at least like with the PSP, we even got like exclusive, at least for a little while before they got re-released. We got exclusive Grand Theft Auto games. Like, they made Grand Theft Auto games for the PSP. So like, the support for the PSP versus the Vita was just a different level for me, at least. And that's why I hate the Vita. It's really because Sony didn't support it properly, and it could have been one of the best handhelds of all time. But it was just let down by software support. Like, no matter what Nintendo releases, they always have good software support. They always have good first party support, because whenever they've released something that's like not popular, all they have are their first party games. Who is speeding at 5:50 in the morning? What are y'all doing out there? But yeah, Nintendo kind of has always had themselves to rely on, and I think Sony was kind of like, we'll just take the loss on that. But yeah, that's it for my Vita rant. But that's basically why I hate the Vita, and I think some of that does kind of translate over. Even though I have every system, and I really I'm not a fanboy of any system. I think that's why I think sometimes I give Sony a harder time because of stuff like that. Just dropping support for the Vita, because no matter how bad it got, like for instance with Nintendo and the Wii U, no matter how bad it got, that system fully got supported through its whole life cycle by Nintendo. They put games out. They even released Breath of the Wild as the last game for that system, and that's an awesome game to go out on. So say what you will about like their failed systems, and even Microsoft with the original Xbox and the Xbox One, which Xbox One wasn't really a failure, but the original Xbox was definitely a failure. But they never was like, we're like, you know what, we're just not going to do anything, whatever, we're just going to move on to our next thing. I mean, once the 360 came out, of course, the Xbox died, but through Xbox's life cycle, they got a bunch of support. So that just always bothered me, and that's why I hate the Vita, and that's why I give Sony extra crap sometimes. That's the truth. But I like to think that I do also give Nintendo crap as well as Microsoft. They deserve it. But Sony, I'm like, I don't trust y'all. Y'all took my money and then charged me too much money for memory cards. All right, that concludes my Vita rant. I had to get that out. I had to be out in the public. Had to be publicly known. But now we can finally cover the title of the live stream, which is USB-C everywhere. Now, this hasn't been confirmed that they're even going to do USB-C. In Europe, they are already calling for USB-C to be the standard, or the European Union is. But senators in the U.S. call for a common change in the standard. I misread that. So, charger standard in the U.S. So a few senators have gotten together basically, and they're calling for a common standard. They didn't say USB-C, but let's be honest, every phone pretty much, except for like really, really, really ghetto budget phones that still use micro USB because they're that cheap, they use USB-C, except for the iPhone. So let's be honest, right? They do this, it's probably going to be USB-C. Like, that's what we're looking at. And to that I say, it's really too little too late. Like, if we got one phone, right, we got the iPhone, that's the only one that's not doing USB-C. Like, at this point, it's not that big of a problem. I understand they want to reduce e-waste. This was a problem back when I was like a teenager, when every phone had a proprietary charger. And they didn't do anything about it. Like, they waited this long, where like now we've gotten to the point where we're like, okay, yeah, it's not great that Apple's still using Lightning, and there's definitely limitations to them using Lightning. But it's like, okay, there's one phone that uses a different standard, and everybody else pretty much uses USB-C, like I said, except for like maybe some extremely ghetto cheap, budget phones. So I just feel like this isn't going to really do that much to reduce e-waste. Like, I get what they're saying. Like, oh, if every phone had the same charger, then they would just keep the charger. But also, Apple could argue that they already do support a universal standard charging, or standard of charging, which is Qi wireless charging, which every phone that uses wireless charging supports Qi wireless charging. Now, they do have stuff like MagSafe, which I'm using right here, that does get you, they allow you to charge up to 15 watts on the iPhone if you have MagSafe, but it's still a Qi wireless charger either way. Like, you can still stick whatever up here, you just get like 7.5 watts, I think, if it's not a MagSafe compatible device. So technically they already support a standard charging, a charging standard that everyone uses. But you could also argue that not every phone has wireless charging, especially like budget phones. So I don't think that the charger thing is as much of a problem as it was even a few years ago. Like, and now it's just to the point where it's like Apple's probably going to switch over to USB-C anyway. But my issue with it, which Apple stated, which is like it could hurt innovation, and I'm not even saying that Apple shouldn't change over to USB-C. Like for me personally, I just use wireless charging, so I don't care. Aside from like CarPlay, I don't ever plug my phone in. Like CarPlay is the only thing that's still wired for me. I'm just thinking about getting a wireless adapter at this point and calling it a day. But yeah, I don't. The issue is like, let's say they do put a law in effect, right? That forces everyone to go over to USB-C. And then we get this new standard that's better. And they're like, hey, we got this new standard, but this connector, because of the wiring, we need a different connector for it or whatever. And the government's like, no, we decide on this standard because it reduces waste. We can't switch it. So, like, if there is something better, like, the one good thing that I really like about Android phones is they have been cutting edge as far as technology. They've really been able to, like, obviously Android phones were the first to adopt USB-C, and it's awesome. It's reversible like Lightning is, but it can carry a lot more, transfer a lot more data than Lightning can. I believe Lightning is still like USB 2 speeds, and it's awful. So it's great. But it could hurt innovation, like Apple said. And I'm not just saying that because I like the iPhone. I just, whenever the government has to step in to regulate something, it's usually not great. And like I said, when the next great thing comes around and it's an issue for us to switch to it because they're like, oh, you have to have the standard charger on your phone or else we can't do that. I think that's what I'm afraid of as far as like the government stepping in. But there hasn't been anything. This kind of just talks right now, so there hasn't even been anything proposed. So we'll see. I just don't think it's a great idea. But speaking of a great idea, apparently, the iPad, the regular old standard iPad, is rumored to switch to USB-C this fall. And I remember, I forgot which show it was where they show the iPad, like the regular iPad, and I was like, man, that design is not, you can't keep carrying this design on at this point. That new iPad Pro-ish design that they've already brought to the Mini, they brought to the Air, and of course the Pro had it first. It's been around since like 2018. It's been 4 years. So you gotta update the iPad, especially because you're competing with Android tablets on the shelves that have better designs than your base model iPad. I'm not saying that they're better. They're definitely not better. The base model iPad's really good. We actually just bought one for my mother-in-law, and that thing is awesome. And it was to replace an old iPad Pro. Like, because of Apple's SoC advancements, it was like more powerful than, I think it was like the first gen iPad Pro, or it might have been the second gen one. But yeah, that thing, I mean, the first gen iPad is good. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's another one of those things where it might be beneficial to switch to USB-C. It will make more sense than the phone because there are additional things that you might want to do with a tablet with the USB-C port, like connect peripherals to it, or if you do music, you can connect the microphone and stuff to it, etc., etc. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense for the iPhone to switch to USB-C. It is rumored that they probably are anyway. But yeah, with the iPad, I think that this would make the most sense. But it's almost one of those too good to be true things. I said the same thing about the MacBook with the HDMI port and all that stuff, and they did it. So I've been wrong before, and I'll probably be wrong again. But I really do hope that they refresh the baseline iPad, because it's about time. All right. What else do I have in my news pocket for you guys today? Oh yeah, while I was chatting about gaming news and other stuff, Internet Explorer died, y'all. It's gone. Well, it's not really fully gone, but for the most part, it's gone. It needs to be fully gone. But some dudeski made a tombstone. for Internet Explorer, and they have it displayed outside of business. I forgot where it is or what kind of business it is. I read this article like a week ago. I just thought it was hilarious, but and at the bottom they put he was a good tool to download other browsers. So yeah, it's on the roof of his brother's cafe in South Korean city. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce it, but this city. But yeah, God, I'm trying to think if I ever used Internet Explorer, and I don't think I did because my first, when I started using the internet in the 90s, because I'm old, the first internet service I used was Juno. And a lot of the times with the dial-up services, you would just use the browser that was included with the service. And I believe Juno had its own browser built in. And then eventually we switched over to AOL, and of course AOL had their own browser. So by the time I got high-speed internet, I was already savvy enough to know not to use Internet Explorer. Because even in comparison to like AOL's browser, because I remember using Internet Explorer by accident, I was like, oh, this sucks. So even in my opinion at the time, I mean, I was a kid, so who knows. But in comparison to AOL's browser, even on dial-up, back in the day, I thought AOL's browser was still better. So I just never wanted to use Internet Explorer. And when I got high-speed internet and I didn't have, that program where I had to dial up and dial into it, for y'all oldies out there, I think I immediately downloaded Firefox. I just looked up. I was like, what's a good browser to use? And Firefox was a thing. And used Firefox until Chrome came out. And then Chrome came out. And I've been on Chrome ever since. So that's pretty much it. Like, I never used Internet Explorer except for like when I was first setting up my computer and I needed to download another browser. Like the tombstone says there. So RIP Internet Explorer. I hated it, especially last year when I was working at IT for a smaller company. It just caused so many issues. I hated it. We had so many things that depended on it still. I'm like, look, these companies need to stop being cheap and just pay to actually develop programs that don't rely on Internet Explorer. I mean, now you can kind of get away with using Edge in like browser mode. Look how my lighting changed just because of this black background. But yeah, I mean, now you can get away with kind of using like Internet Explorer mode in Edge, but it's still like, come on, update your programs. Also, speaking of lighting, I got a new ring light. It's exciting. I got this like $60 starter kit from Best Buy. This is a random tangent. I like doing random tangents in these live streams, so forgive me. It has this little remote, so I can change it. I can do RGB. I can be red. Let me try to be red for a second. Oh, that's weird. This looks weird. Let me do blue. This is jarring. I feel like this is too jarring. I apologize. All right, I apologize for how jarring this is. I feel like this looks like Avatar, not Last Airbender, but like blue people Avatar. Let's go back to how do I get back to a regular light? Let me hit this button. Let's try that. Okay, we back. I'm sorry. I experimented with RGB. But yeah, Best Buy had this kit for like $60 that is a ring light and a phone mount and everything. And I just got it because I was like, this would be perfect for live streams because I could just clamp it onto my desk mount that I already have for my camera. And then it has a USB connection for power. And I don't have to have my big light or my big light stand over to the side of this weird angle trying to get the light on my face and do all this crazy stuff. So yeah, that's another upgrade that I've done while randomly like talking about it in the middle of transitioning to another story about something completely unrelated. But you know what? That's what happens at 6 a.m. That's what happens. You know what happens if you have an Apple Watch? You can watch YouTube on it now. They came out with a YouTube, well, it's not an official YouTube app. It's called WatchTube. So you can watch YouTube videos on your Apple Watch. And yes, it is stupid. And I probably will try it. And I probably will only use it once and never use it again. But why do you have to rain on other people's parade? Why can't you let us have fun with, useless things for the Apple Watch. Don't hate, just appreciate. So let us have our fun with our stupid, useless YouTube video watcher. But no, honestly, I mean, it's cool, but yeah, it's like, realistically, that first of all, the Apple Watch battery isn't great. So I just imagine watching videos on there, it's just gonna destroy it. Second, there's obviously like, who wants to? They're like, ooh, I'm really enjoying this video. Like, no one wants to do that realistically. But it's a cool concept. But since it's a third-party app, you can't sign into your account or anything. They have like a QR code system, so you can share videos from like your phone to your watch. But yeah, you can't, like, if you have premium, you're gonna be watching ads when you're watching. You're gonna be like, come on, why gotta watch these ads on my watch? I got premium. So yeah, I wonder if YouTube would be interested in doing an Apple Watch app. I don't think so. I don't think that's the I just don't think that's the medium in which people want to consume YouTube content. But if you do have an Apple Watch and you try it, make sure to watch some of the Mike Texted Out videos on your Apple Watch. Alright. But yeah, that's all the weird news stuff that I got for you today. I know it was mainly Apple stuff. We did talk about some gaming stuff. And to be honest, I've been thinking about stopping doing the Apple content on this channel and doing a separate Apple channel. Because it's just over the last year or so, especially when the pandemic started. And the only thing that I was really interested in was talking about gaming. And I don't play a lot of games, but there's something that fascinates me about the shift in technologies like cloud gaming and consoles, and just the different technologies like technologies and services offered around gaming. That's the stuff I like to talk about, and I can just talk about it all day and every day. But I do like to talk about the Apple stuff, but I just feel weird about it because I only talk about it when it's like big events. So it's like 90% of the time on this channel, I'm not doing Apple stuff, and then I'll drop a video that's like WWDC, and then it's like, it doesn't fit. And then also, if someone just subscribes for that, they're not going to get that except for like 2 or 3 times a year. So it feels disingenuous in some ways. So I don't know. I've just been thinking about spinning it off to its own channel, but I would have to figure out things to fill that channel with, other than like, oh, I did a video about WWDC. Like, I could do Apple News, but like, there's some Apple channels that I follow, but it's like, you know what? Outside of like when they have an event or they drop a new product, there's just, the news is just boring. Like, all you can do is talk about rumors all the time. And I'm fine with talking about rumors. I know at first I was like, I don't like talking about rumors, but I'm fine with talking about them now. But it's like, I don't even care about the new iPhone rumors that much. And if I had a channel where I just talked about that every week, I'd just be like, oh my gosh. Like, I really have to be into the news I'm talking about. Like, there's plenty of stories that I don't talk about that are big stories, but I just talk about things that I find interesting. And like, I don't talk about a lot of things related to actual game releases. I'm like, oh, this game's coming out, unless it's something that's really like Crisis Core and what was the other one? Pokemon Snap. Like, those two I did talk about this week for my news video. But typically, you know, game releases are game releases. It's whatever. There's big games coming out that people care about all the time, and I just prefer to talk about the technology and services around gaming. But yeah, the Apple stuff, I'm just really leaning towards doing my own channel for it. But I just have to see what that looks like from Jeff's alarm's going off. But I just have to see what that looks like as far as what the year-round content would be, and if that makes sense to have it be its own channel. But yeah, that's my ranty rant for today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this live stream to a conclusion, and I'll probably be back next Wednesday. Might do, not making any promises because I might change my mind, but I might do Secret Gaming Man video for the PS3 streaming titles, because, you know, every time there's something gaming related, I can't play games. I have to call Secret Gaming Man reluctantly after I fail at playing the game, and then he come and does a video for me. And that's just what's been happening throughout my whole life. So I might have a Secret Game Man video next week. We'll see how that turns out. Of course, I'll be back on Sunday with some news. I already have a few stories pulled, but I'm not going to talk about it now. You got to watch. You got to tune in on Sunday to see those stories. But I'm going to get up out of here. It's 6:10 a.m. I'm going to go do some other stuff and probably go to sleep in like an hour or two. But if you joined me live, which I don't think anybody did, but that's fine. Thank you for joining me live. If you watch the replay, make sure to... That didn't make any sense. Make sure to drop a like on it. I am out of here. Remember to always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace. I don't know why I said that like I was just going to end the stream. I got to hit end stream and then I got to hit end again. All right, bye.